A strong earthquake struck Indonesia early in the morning on May 26, 2006, as a result of a series of tremors, the strength of which reached 6.3 points on the Richter scale. Tens of thousands of buildings were destroyed. The victims of the disaster number in the thousands. Two series of aftershocks with a short interval occurred on Saturday morning near the Indonesian island of Java. According to seismologists, the epicenter of the earthquake was located about 35 kilometers from the large city of Yogyakarta. Its strength reached 6 to -6.3 points on the Richter scale. The first tremors destroyed many buildings on the island. Thousands of people remained under the rubble. The surviving locals have not forgotten the strong earthquake of 2004 and the tsunami that killed almost 170,000 people. The island's roads were filled with a string of trucks and cars, as well as pedestrians trying to get as far away from the coast and as high above sea level as possible. It was only a few hours later that people realized that they were no longer in danger, and they were able to focus on finding and helping the victims. Please like this video and subscribe to this new channel, and you will see many more interesting and useful things. As rescuers examined the ruins, the number of confirmed victims grew faster and faster. At first, officials reported dozens of deaths, then hundreds, and by late Saturday evening, the count had moved to thousands. The number of wounded was also growing. Very quickly, the 4 surviving hospitals in Yogyakarta became overcrowded. People had to be accommodated in utility rooms, corridors, and under awnings on the streets. There weren't enough doctors either. After the seriousness of the situation became clear, Indonesian President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono called an emergency ministerial meeting, at which it was decided to provide all possible assistance to the affected areas and, in particular, send troops there to assist rescuers. The president also dispatched ministers of health and social welfare to the disaster area, and on Saturday and Sunday, he personally visited Yogyakarta to assess the scale of the devastation. According to the latest data, more than 35,000 buildings were destroyed as a result of the earthquake. The city of Bantul, located about 20 kilometers from Yogyakarta, was the most affected, where more than 80% of all buildings were destroyed. More than 2.5 thousand people died in the city alone. The city of Yogyakarta, in which only about 10% of houses were destroyed, in other settlements of the island suffered less damage. Roads were destroyed, and many settlements were left without telephone service and without electricity. From 100 to 200,000 people were left without a roof over their heads. The number of injured as a result of the earthquake can reach up to 20,000 people, and the death toll on Monday exceeded 5,000. Officials admit that these numbers may increase further in the future. On Monday, the Indonesian government declared a state of emergency in the earthquake-affected area for a period of 3 months and allocated 75 billion rupees, about $8 million, to provide emergency assistance to the victims. In total, it is planned to allocate more than 1 trillion rupees, about $107 million, for the restoration of destroyed cities. In addition, the government appealed to the international community to provide all possible assistance to the victims. The international community has already responded to the call of the government of the affected country, sending humanitarian aid, doctors and rescuers there, as well as promising to provide financial support to Indonesia. So far, various countries have declared their readiness to allocate about $17 million to the victims. The UK plans to allocate most of this amount, having promised Indonesia £4 million, about $7 million. The European Commission intends to allocate $3.8 million. The United States has offered to $0.5 million, China $2 million, and Canada $1.8 million. Aid groups from the World Food Programme and UNICEF are already working in Indonesia to distribute food and tents to refugees, but the situation in the affected areas remains desperate. According to Indonesian officials, even the injured people lack basic necessities, not to mention the thousands of refugees who lost all their possessions as a result of the earthquake. Despite the help of the military, rescuers barely managed to search the ruins in search of survivors. Thousands of dead still remain without burial, which is a serious problem. A few more days and epidemics may well begin in the affected areas, which will only increase the number of victims of the disaster. The 2004 tsunami, which killed about 170,000 Indonesians, dealt a major blow to Indonesian tourism, which is one of the country's main sources of income. The activities of radical Islamists in the country and the very rapid spread of the avian flu virus also scared tourists away from Indonesia. A strong earthquake that occurred in a relatively prosperous and popular tourist area of the country will only worsen the already difficult situation. As a result of the tremors, one of the pavilions of the Sultan of Yogyakarta collapsed, and several other pavilions were damaged. Part of Yogyakarta, which was one of the tourist centers of the island of Java, lies in ruins. It is already known that the Borobudur Buddhist temple complex, as well as Buddhist and Hindu temples in Prambanan, included in the UNESCO World Heritage List, have been damaged. Experts warn that although all these complexes have survived, they need urgent restoration. The side effect of the earthquake is unlikely to improve the situation either. The activation of the Merapi volcano, located near Yogyakarta, which is considered one of the most active volcanoes in the world. Volcanologists warn that Merapi's activity has almost tripled since Saturday, and they fear that a major volcanic eruption could add to all the troubles in Java.